Hey, it's professional wrestler Colt Boom Boom Cabana, and you are watching WrestleTalk. Congratulations, you got here. Now, subscribe and support. Thanks.
Support WrestleTalk!
Give us a subscribe.
Can Retribution be saved? We've got that and the AEW ratings war with NXT. I am Luke Owen. I'm joined by Denise Salcedo for the magazine show. Hey, Denise, how are you?
Luke, you're finally back. I feel like I haven't seen you in several weeks.
I know, yeah. You've had various different co-hosts. You had Adam a couple of weeks ago, Mr. WrestleTalk last week. So it's nice for you and I to get back together doing the show. Team officially now, Team Danuke.
It is official.
That's what won the poll. Yeah.
I can't believe it. We officially have our team name. That's very exciting.
So Team Danuke. And speaking of great names, Retribution debuted this week on Monday Night Raw. How's that for a segue? And yeah, so they debuted. We know three of the names, which is T-Bar, Slapjack, and Mace. WrestleVotes tweeted, just talked to a source who was in the building last night, said the presentation of Retribution was a major topic of discussion, met with laughter at times backstage. Direct quote, the masks and names are already making the road for these guys impossible to climb. And they also tweeted yesterday that one of the scrapped names for either Mia Yim or Mercedes Martinez was Shatter. That was the name that was offered, but it was suggested and thankfully scrapped. They were going to get that name on Monday. So you've talked about this with Sean on the Fightful podcast. What were your thoughts on Retribution's debut on Raw?
So first of all, I think I have to say that I think I prefer the name Shatter over T-Bar. I mean, if you think about it, at least Shatter kind of sounds a little bit cool depending on how you say it, like Shatter. I don't know. Honestly,
WWE announcer voice, I guess. Is this
there
your
you
real?
go. Shatter. I'm thinking if you maybe market it good, I don't know. I'm reaching here, okay? I think anything's better than T-Bar. Although I did find out that I didn't know that Slapjack is actually a very inappropriate, I don't know, it's like thing that people say. I was reading the Urban Dictionary on it, and I had no idea about this prior.
It is the sort of thing that Sean would use as a segue into a Blue Chew read. It is, I've been sent that multiple times throughout the week.
Exactly. So, okay, in terms of the names, obviously they're not good. I mean, I think if you were going to come up with some sort of more violent name, I'm sure there's other words that sound maybe more cool, more edgy, all of that, right? And then also, okay, here's the thing with Retribution is that people have been mocking the way they look, the way they dress, the way they've been sounding, the way the promos that they have been cutting and all of that. But then you go into Monday Night Raw, they have their first match and it ends, they lose in a DQ essentially. And it's man, they didn't even get their win off their first match and they lose essentially to the Hurt Business. And so it's not a good start for them. I feel like if you were going to try to get them, to really be something to be taken seriously, it's either got to be, they either got to be really good at the promos. They got to be sounding legit. There's got to be something that makes us take them seriously. And right now everything's failing, from the names to their gear, to their everything. Right. So it's what do you do with Retribution? I think at this point, everybody's just seeing it as a big laugh.
That's it. It's. I mean, we had quite the show on Tuesday, when me and Pete reviewed it, because it was just it was met with so much laughter. The comment section were in tears over the names. Me and Pete just every now and again, we just kept breaking into laughter whenever we had to say Slapjack got into the ring. Slapjack was being beaten up by Bobby Lashley. Mace caused the DQ. They are. I'm nearly 35, and I thought, I'm too old for this. I'm too old to be talking about Slapjack. And yeah, it's not had the best reception from fans this week. As you say, I think a lot of people have been making fun of it, and they have got an uphill climb on their hands. And you hit the nail on the head for me. Having them lose their first match via DQ is not the best way to get started, because what you had is the WWE want to push Retribution, but they don't want the Hurt Business to lose. So they booked them in a match, booked themselves into a corner, and just right, what do we do? We'll do it as a DQ. And it was the lamest DQ as well. Mace, just like he punches Bobby Lashley when he's not the legal man, and the referee's like, well, that's enough for me. Call for the bell, I guess.
Yeah, it wasn't even anything where you're like, oh my God, that was such a great finish. No, it wasn't. But here's the thing, when I get trying to protect the Hurt Business and all of that. They've been doing great work every week on Raw and all of that. I get it. But Retribution is supposed to be like this new badass, group coming into the promotion and like ruining everything, right? So you would think that maybe they would get a win, they would go savage, just something, right? To like maybe at least sort of get more momentum going on there for them. And we just didn't get that. So now it's sort of like, okay, they came in, people laughed, and now they're slotted and they're slotted into, I'm not going to take them seriously right now because they didn't win. Nothing's working right now. It's unfortunate though.
Yeah, like if you wanted to do the DQ win, a way round this could have been just having all of their cronies, like the Retribution, the B team essentially, that just sort of come down in the mask, or the other NXT guys, just have them come in and beat up, and you can put over on commentary, this was never about winning the match. This was just about sending a message to the Hurt Business. If you really didn't want to beat the Hurt Business and you wanted to give Retribution something, do that, as opposed to Dio Maddin just going, bop, DQ.
Exactly. And it's not even like the Hurt Business could have taken the loss, okay? They have been doing a lot each and every single week, so it's not like it was really going to take anything away from them.
And you then add on the complications. So if you didn't see Quizzlemania this past Wednesday, folks, the end of Quizzlemania basically broke down because we had a super chat in about Retribution, and all of a sudden, we all just started asking questions. And chief among those questions is, why were they given contracts? B,
that's the big question, Luke. That's the big one. That's the magic one.
B, why were they given contracts that allow them to do anything when they already were doing anything that they wanted? C, why did they accept these contracts when the thing that they hate the most are the people that are under contract at WWE? Like, you're now under contract at WWE. You're part of the whores that are taking the money, right? Like, you're now part of this machine. Also, you were in NXT before, so you were already under WWE contracts.
That's what I'm saying. It doesn't make sense. Okay, at least maybe do they could have even, because they're not acknowledging really that these are, former NXT people. They're not really acknowledging that. So it's almost like we have to pretend that we don't know that. So in that being said, like you said, if they're coming in and they hate the company and they want to ravage everything, why sign a contract? And if anything, it should be like, either they could have gone to one of two ways, right? They could have gotten themselves a contract, so that way the company wouldn't look silly for, getting these savages on their roster. Or two, they could have been offered a contract for I don't know what reason, and they could have ripped it apart and said, like, we're not going to join this corporation. I just think that they could have gone either of two ways with that. But it's interesting because one of the things that I did say on the Raw post show is that there has to be an explanation, because we just can't pretend that we don't know these people. We just can't pretend that we haven't been seeing them on NXT. We have to at least be like, hey, this is the reason why Mia Yim is now, in Retribution. Like, this was the reason why she, decided to join. Same thing for Dio Maddin and so on. I feel like there has to be some sort of explanation. And if not, then we just have to pretend like we didn't know them before.
So to bring us to the question, can this group be saved? I am going to give some credit here to Dijak, to Dio Maddin, and to Shane Thorne, because I feel like they've been trying this week. They've now changed their names on to Twitter, which means they've lost their blue check marks. And Dijak posted up yesterday, 6 hours ago, in fact. This is a tweet he put out, and you'll like this because it's one of your friends. Our mission is to destroy WWE, and we will be doing so by laying waste to every single superstar, past and present. The only exception is X-Pac, because X-Pac is an outstanding name. Retribution.
I saw that, and Sean retweeted it, and he was like, hey, if you need anything, DM me. I couldn't stop cackling. I was like, I'm sorry, but that was a very, very random tweet. That's how that felt. I was like, I wasn't expecting it. I read it like 5 times. I even made sure to see if this was a legit account. I was like, okay, who's making a joke here?
Yeah, I did the same thing. Like this morning, I saw it this morning and I was like, okay, I need to double check this. And I was like, oh, they've got like 30 odd thousand followers, but I'd have thought that apparently, no, it's them. And the other thing as well, yesterday when Brian Alvarez put up the AEW NXT ratings, Mace, T-Bar, and Slapjack all replied to it with the Raw rating, but like crediting it to themselves. So like Shane Thorne like commented saying Slapjack 1,667,000 viewers to say that we're doing better viewings than AEW and NXT.
That's hilarious. You know what? If they're going to take this route of being like, just funny on social media, dude, why not do it? I mean, at this point, just have a good time with it. And maybe they could turn it around. I mean, right now I'm feeling a little hopeless. I'm not going to lie, but I'm taking for what it is. Like I'm taking Retribution for, to give me a couple of laughs here and there. Cause we all laughed at Slapjack, T-Bar, Mace. We had a few laughs. So that's what I'm taking Retribution as. And I did laugh with their tweets, and I didn't see the one that you said that they left Brian Alvarez. So now it makes me like even appreciate their social media antics even more.
This is it. Like when I was going through like the replies then to Slapjack and Mason and T-Bar's tweet, everyone is kind of like, okay, this is making me like Retribution. This is making me like it. And like Dijak's been on a tear this week making reference because everyone said you look like Bane. So he found like the Wikipedia page of Bane and said like, I'm way taller than this guy. I'm nowhere near like Bane. This is an insult to me. Like they're listening to the criticisms of it. And I mean, I think they were probably going to be very aware of the criticism they were going to get. And they're kind of like getting in on the joke in a way. And I think that might be a way to turn the crowd around to them because like you say, they'll see the social media antics and be like, at least they're having a crack with it. They're having a laugh with it at least.
Yeah, and at least you won't have to you won't hate them. Like you hate people less when they're like, in on the joke with you and whatnot. But however, I do have a question for you, Luke, because are we hypocrites because our name is Danuke? Is that as silly as Slapjack, or are we a little bit more above on the scale here? Because I think our name is cool, but hopefully we're not on the Slapjack T-Bar level.
Denise, we put it to the people. We asked the people what they wanted to call us, and that's what they gave us. We can't take any blame for Team Danuke.
That's true. There you go.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. So, yeah, can Retribution be saved? In a way, maybe. Like, they have got an uphill climb here. But I think if they can have if they have a really good match at a pay-per-view, like if they get put into a 6-man tag against, I don't know, like if you put them in there against Apollo Crews, Ricochet, and Ali, just sort of like, I'm thinking of 3 people that have been hanging out recently. You put those 3 together and it's 3 baby faces versus 3 members of Retribution, and they go out there and they have this killer, like the Shield's debut match where they just go out there and have these amazing, amazing matches. That might be the way to turn people around on them, to be like, okay, like the gimmick sucks, the name sucks, the look sucks, but you know what? They're having great matches, and that's at least something.
And here's the thing, there's actually another plus side. So in terms of Dio and Dijak and Mia Yim, for example, like all of these people, like how do you know where their position had they gone to Raw even have been? Like they probably wouldn't have even been a focal point. Like we don't know that for sure because there's so many other people that you can say like would have stood out more or would have done more. So I guess in a way this is sort of a plus for them personally because they're getting to go on Raw and they're trying out this crazy gimmick, but at least they're getting work and they're getting TV time. So I did try to look at it in that perspective to see like, hey, if they weren't on Retribution, like realistically, what were we going to expect from them if they were to ever go up to the main roster or to Raw?
You're absolutely right on that one. And the plus side to this, to take a real positive stance on this, Denise, that's what Team Danuke is all about, is taking the positive stance on things, is they're great workers. Mercedes Martinez rocks. Like, she's great. Mia Yim rules. Dijak is awesome. Like, you've got Shane Thorne's great. You've got a really good group of people. Unfortunately, I've not seen a lot of Madden, so I don't know, how he is, but I can't imagine he's terrible. So you've got a solid group of wrestlers who can go out there and have good matches. That's the positive for this. They've been hampered with bad names and a bad look, but if they can go out there and have a killer 20-minute match with a group of other people, then I think they're going to do okay. And I kind of speculate as well. I think we may get our first ever intergender Survivor Series elimination match because we've got 5 members of Team Retribution. If you're doing Retribution versus Team WWE for Survivor Series, that's something that's a bit unique. That's something different. And WWE is always looking for something that is different and unique at the moment, whether that is Eye for an Eye, whether that is Gold Rush, whether that is You'll Never See It Coming. They're looking to get things to hook people in, and that could be a way to hook people in.
No, it's really cool. I think that some people would think that it's really cool. I was gonna say it really could, and then I said it's really cool. So I kind of just rolled with it on there. But no, seriously, I do think that people would take that and see it as something awesome to, watch.
Mm-hmm. WWE may be wrong, but a broken clock is right twice a day, Denise.
Man, so did you know that saying as well?
I did know that saying, yes.
Oh my God. I didn't know that saying at all. And everybody's like, oh, I knew that. I'm thinking, God, I'm so out of the loop here. I need to be part of the cool kids team and know what people are really saying, because I always feel like I'm out of everything. But I guess in conclusion, we have hope for Retribution.
There is always hope out there. Right, moving on to the AEW NXT ratings for this week. Dynamite got 835,000 viewers with a 0.32 rating in the all-important 18 to 49 demographic, with NXT getting under 700,000 for the first time in a while, with 696,000 viewers, 0.18 rating in that same demo. So that's a drop of about 50,000 for AEW from the previous week, and obviously a big decrease from the million that they did 2 weeks ago. And NXT was basically the same, dropped about by 7,000 for a 0.18 last week. So I thought that AEW was a solid show yesterday, as was NXT. I'm really excited about Kyle O'Reilly going in for Kyle O'Reilly versus Finn Balor. I'm all in for that. What did you make of both shows?
So first of all, with Kyle O'Reilly, I wasn't expecting him to win. And at the beginning, I wasn't really feeling him to be the winner of it all. But then afterwards, I feel like he made me change my mind, because I thought his performance was really good. So I did enjoy that. I thought NXT was just, back-to-back matches. I didn't like the tag match. I was a little bit bored for that one. The women's battle royal, I thought, had a few good spots, but overall it was just a little bit slow. I was expecting actually a little bit more. If anything, I thought Casey Catanzaro was probably one of the standouts besides, Shotzi. And then I did enjoy Tommaso Ciampa and Jake Atlas. I thought that was a good match. I thought that they both worked at a really good speed together, so I did enjoy that. And then for AEW, I did think that I thought the show was fine. It was a little bit more slow than some of their previous shows, but as we know, they had to make do with what they had. I was hoping, I had higher hopes for the Eddie Kingston, Jon Moxley match. I didn't think it was that great, so I kind of did feel a little bit about it. But Eddie Kingston, I can't put him over enough as everybody else. This guy is probably maybe aside from MJF and Jericho, is one of those people that when he seriously goes on the mic, it doesn't even feel like he's scripted. It doesn't even feel like he's got bullet points. None of that. He just goes out there and he just talks, man. And I actually loved the Jericho MJF backstage segment where they were like, "You're great. No, you're great." And then they kind of went off from there. I thought that was pretty creative. And I'm trying to think what else I liked. I thought that Miro looked great, but he doesn't feel as big of a deal on the show, I think, as maybe we might have presumed. But he did look phenomenal. So I am excited to see where they go from that. I actually thought Brody Lee was one of my favorite people on the show, though, because I thought he was one of the most consistent, and I really, really like his character and what they're doing with him. So I thought he did great. I thought Sonny Kiss looked great, and yeah, that was about my rough thoughts.
I thought Brody Lee's promo on Cody to put over the dog collar match, I thought was incredible. And yeah, I can't say enough good things about Eddie Kingston at the moment. Dude is just amazing. My big takeaway from AEW, like you, I was so excited for the Kingston Moxley match, and I didn't quite get what I wanted out of it, because it was a TV match and there was a lot of it was taking place in the ad break, and it kind of felt like they wanted to have this big G1 match. They did the big New Japan no sells and everything like that, but they didn't have the time to do it. My big takeaway for it, though, and my plus is it's not over yet.
Yes,
beat down afterwards with the Lucha Brothers, so at least there's hope that we're going to get more of Moxley and Kingston, which I'm absolutely all for. Right, let's jump into the Patreon mailbag. If you want to submit a question to the Patreon mailbag for me and Denise, all you got to do is head on over to patreon.com/WrestleTalk and donate at any dollar amount, and then you'll be able to leave a message in the community tab. Don't email me, I will just lose it. And we're running a special, Denise, this week while I'm in charge. It may be cancelled by next week when Mr. Davis comes back, but I'm in charge this week. We are offering an annual Patreon pledge. And if you donate and if you pledge annually, decide the tier you want and pledge annually, you'll get 1 month free. That's right. 12 months for the price of 11. That's, you get an extra WrestleTalk Extra and WrestleTalk After Dark, which we are recording this afternoon. So what a time to get involved.
That's awesome. That's a great special.
Exactly. Yeah. See, I'm a man of the people. Brian Heath has a message in to say, has there been any positive we can take away from the COVID era of wrestling? I'm going to say Banks and Bailey. That's been my favorite thing on WWE, at least. I think I've really enjoyed them.
Yeah, I think so too. And it's funny because I took this question as like two different ideas. Like I had one that was generic and one that was more storyline. So the generic one is, I'm surprised at how much can actually get done without like any audiences or like any of that, just like the fact that they were so quick to come up with the Thunderdome and all of these, different promotions coming up with these different things. But in terms of more specific, in terms of programming, I would say the cinematic matches, as long as they're not super overused, those, we've gotten some great ones: Stadium Stampede, Money in the Bank, Boneyard, Firefly Funhouse, and those were the ones I liked. And then I would say Randy Orton's work as well, everything that he's done with Edge and, even now with Drew McIntyre, I think that has been pretty good. And then Roman's heel turn, I think, was a positive from this COVID era. And I would say that those would be the big ones for me.
Yeah, I think we certainly need to look at it from inside our bubble, because obviously, like, there's very few positives, particularly like this week, because there's been like all the outbreak stories that we've had, like within NXT and AEW, that like it's hard to like say that there's positives about wrestling carrying on, but to kind of look at it from within inside that wrestling bubble. I mean, man, wrestling, what a bizarre little sport it is. It's the only sport that's belligerent enough not to stop during a pandemic.
I remember when this was like earlier during COVID, when the whole story came out where Florida or the governor deemed WWE essential
service.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And like all my family that doesn't even watch wrestling or know anything about it, like friends, you name it, coworkers, everyone was like talking to me about it. And I was just like, oh my God, this is like one of the few rare times where people that don't know anything about wrestling or anything about anything are chiming in and giving in their 2 cents. And, it's something that I can't, stepping out from a fan's perspective, you can't really defend it, but stepping into a fan's perspective, yeah, you could defend it. But it was pretty interesting though.
Oh, totally. Like it's, when I've seen, like, spoken to like family members or like friends and stuff, and the question was like, how's lockdown been for you? Have you still been working this, that? And everyone's been like, oh man, like, how have you been doing? Because surely the wrestling stopped. And I'm like, oh no, it's still going on. Like they're doing live shows every single week. And I was like, what?
They're like, what the heck is going on there? And it's so weird because sometimes you think that because you know so much about wrestling, you're so into this world that everyone knows it. And the truth is that's not the case. It's like I didn't realize what in a wrestling bubble sometimes I can get until I step out and talk to other people that aren't fans. And it trips me out. Like I remember I went to breakfast, real quick story, with my cousin and her boyfriend. And me and my fiance were talking about New Japan, and they were like, oh, what is that? We were like, oh, it's Japanese wrestling. And their response was, there's wrestling in Japan? And I couldn't believe it. I was shocked. I just looked at my fiance and I was like, oh my God, what is this? It was so weird. But it's the truth though. Some people really just don't know.
No, you're absolutely right. Like I didn't know, I didn't take that for granted. Or rather, I have taken that for granted. I don't know if I've like spoken to any family members if they would also know that there is wrestling outside of like the US and the United Kingdom. Like whenever I talk to like my father-in-law, he always brings up like, Big Daddy, Giant Haystacks, He boys the world of sports 60s and 70s era of UK wrestling, and I'm like, yeah, nope, it's still going. It's still going. Undertaker is still wrestling, this, that, and the other. Like that's always the thing. But yeah, I don't think if I'd have mentioned to someone, when I was in Japan last year, I'm going to go see a Japanese wrestling show, where they're going like, is there wrestling there too?
Yes, yes. And even just like, I'm sure your dad has a different opinion of wrestling back in the day to wrestling now, because that's kind of how it is for my family. Like, they see Mexican wrestling as the real wrestling, like the real stuff, like the old school generation, that know like all your legendary luchadores and all of that. And they see the American stuff as the fake stuff. And I'm just like, all right, sure, whatever. I'll let you think that. But it's very interesting to see how like older generations view pro wrestling and from their day and how they view it from now, modern day wrestling.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we a proud pedigree here of British wrestling fans, which was old ladies in the front row with their purses, and they would try and like hit the wrestlers with their purses because they were the bad people, the bad boys. Anyway, right, moving on. Matthew Makovsky says last week's show was about Tessa Blanchard. Of course, first thing that people do is come up with dream matches that they can have. So let's say you're booking a match that has huge star power. Name 1 to 3 from each brand in AEW and WWE. Is there a limit on how many questions you can ask a week? I've got one later on. Yes, Matthew, we'll try and do just one question a week in the mailbag. I know you're new to this game, but yeah, so like if you're trying to book a dream match of star power quality, I would say it's got to be something like The Elite versus Team WWE. So if you had like, I suppose like they want it to be specifically in WWE. It's hard then. You've got to try and build like the biggest match possible with just based on star power. Which is it's hard because, yeah, go on.
I feel like they've done most of them.
Yeah,
but
right.
If anything, maybe Rock Roman?
Yeah, I think that's probably the biggest match we can get. Like I was thinking of, Austin versus someone. If you could bring Austin back for a match, like that's kind of it. But you're right, like Rock Roman, I think is like that's big star power. Because we've already done Rock Cena. So if you can't do Austin Cena, Rock Roman, I think is probably the biggest star power match they've got on the table.
And then maybe AJ Triple H. Would that be considered superstar power?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I want to see it, but I
would want to see it too. So I think it depends on the person you're asking.
Flaming Live says, I've been thinking about WWE versus New Japan, and I came up with these matches: Tanahashi versus The Miz, Zack Sabre Jr. versus Daniel Bryan, Suzuki versus Brock Lesnar, Ibushi versus the Brian Kendrick as a Cruiserweight Classic rematch, Ospreay versus Ziggler, and Okada versus Triple H. Taking out the politics, backstage real-life dramas, go straight with in-ring talent. Who do you think could win those matches? It's a hard question to ask that, Flaming.
That's a good question. I like that question.
Because based on in-ring talent, because I'm trying to work out whether you want this as a real thing or is this still like a kayfabe thing? Because you've still got to do like whatever you do, it's got to have backstage politics and stuff in there. Because if it's just based on in-ring talent, then I'm picking all of the New Japan guys to win. Like I think Okada should beat Triple H, Ospreay should beat Ziggler, Ibushi should beat Kendrick, Suzuki should maybe Lesnar should beat Suzuki. Zack to beat Bryan and Tanahashi.
No, I would say Suzuki definitely beats Brock Lesnar for sure. Yeah. No one does badass like Suzuki. No one. Yeah. And then
no one beats the wrestling granddad.
What? Because I do agree with you in the sense of all the New Japan beating the WWE guys. But what were the matches again?
So we've got Tanahashi versus Miz.
Definitely Tanahashi.
Yep. Zack Sabre Jr. versus Daniel Bryan.
I would go with Daniel Bryan because I know that it doesn't matter because Zack Sabre Jr. would still give him a hell of a match. So I'll switch it up there.
Yeah, I can't bet against Zack on that one. Suzuki versus Brock.
Suzuki.
Ibushi versus Kendrick.
Ibushi.
Ospreay versus Ziggler.
Ospreay.
And Okada versus Triple H.
I feel Triple H would win if it was based on politics, but based on wrestling, then I would say Okada. So yeah, you take whatever you want from that.
Robert Ray says, hope all is well. I've asked a similar question before, but it's been about a year since I've asked it. And we've got Denise on, so I'd like to hear your answer to this. If you could travel the road for 1 year with 2 WWE stars, male and female, who would you pick? For me, I'd pick Drew and Dakota, but a close second would be Woods and Liv, as I think traveling with them would be a laugh. Just talk wrestling, and I'm all for getting some wrestling stories. So yeah, who would you like to go on a road trip with for a year?
Do you have yours already? Have you answered this one yet?
Well, Woods is always like number one for me because I just like me and Xavier Woods. If I was friends with Xavier Woods, we've got very similar interests. So I think that we'll always find topics of conversation to talk about. Also, I think he'd just be a really nice guy to travel the road with. I think my choices, like about a year ago when we asked this question, might be the same now, which is Xavier Woods and Ember Moon. Again, because we've got very similar interests. And I think the three of us together would just have a right old chuckle.
Wait, what interests do you have that are similar to Ember?
We're all into D&D. We're all big into Dungeons and Dragons and role-playing games. And yeah, Ember's a big D&D nerd. So I think, yeah, we could just basically just talk about D&D for hours.
Oh, man, I'm so out of the loop on that. I don't know anything about that. But I think for me, okay, for a female, I would probably go with Alexa Bliss because I just think she's so cute and she's so cool. And I think she likes pop music from what I've read on her tweets. So I feel like we would get along in that sense. And she's a Disney fan. I'm not a huge Disney fan, but I can go to Disney. I can hang out. You know what? I would also throw in Charlotte Flair. I just think she's so cool that I feel like that's somebody that I would want to associate myself with just so that, some of her greatness can rub off on me, And then in terms of the guys, I would probably go with Triple H because I want to see how busy his schedule is. And then for fun, I would go with Braun Strowman to see how much he really eats because I interviewed him and I asked him how much he eats for breakfast. And I want to know if everything he said was true or not. So that's the only reason. Oh my God, he listed like every single breakfast item ever imagined. And during the interview, Triple H was standing right next to him. He turns around and Triple H was doing another interview. He turns around, joins our interview and says, "I'm not paying for that catering bill." Yes, like I can't even tell you everything he said because he said so much, like every food item that you can imagine.
Alexa Bliss is a really good answer as well. I didn't think of Bliss because we could like I like Disney. I'm a bit of a Disney kid, and I'm a Disney Plus subscriber. And also, mine and Bliss have got this. We've got the same favorite Disney movie, a Goofy movie. So we could just basically nerd out about that for hours.
Oh, and R-Truth too. I would want to travel with him because he seems like a fun person.
Yeah, I mean, his quiz show on the network is actually, it's pretty great. Like, I think the best round on that is making people go around to their house and like grab various items from sort of like their wrestling past. That's genuinely very funny.
It's a good one. Yeah, I liked his episode with Jeff Hardy. Well, I've watched all of them, but I thought the one with Jeff Hardy made me laugh like so hard.
Chris Smith says, how do you feel about commentators calling attention to young wrestlers paying homage to past stars? On NXT, we've seen Damian Priest dressed like Razor Ramon, Bronson Reed dressed like Bam Bam Bigelow, Tegan Nox used Kane's chokeslam on Io Shirai. And Io Shirai used the 619. Personally, I'm fine with wrestlers paying tribute to their heroes, but it bothers me slightly when the commentators bring it up. I hate to sound like Jim Cornette, but it hurts kayfabe when they do it. They feel like less stars and just marks. Again, let me reiterate, I am fine with wrestlers paying homage to their heroes. I would just prefer if the commentators didn't bring it up. I'm willing to be in the minority, but what do you guys think?
I like the fact that he's like, I don't want to be Jim Cornette.
Yeah, if there's one good lesson in life is don't be like Jim Cornette.
You know what? I feel like we all kind of have a little Jim Cornette inside of us. You know what? Oh, just a little one that's like, I don't like this. You know what? Honestly, though, in terms of his question, though, I don't think it's anything bad because I know it's something that's done in sports a lot. Like you'll see basketball players paying homage to, guys like Kobe Bryant. And I don't think that it takes away from I don't think it takes away from, showcasing who your heroes are. I mean, look at how many times Sasha Banks, does things in honor of Eddie Guerrero. And so there's so many different examples of that. So I don't see it more as like, oh, they're being like fanboys or fangirls. I see it as like, you know what? This was my favorite wrestler or one of my favorite wrestlers. He's a freaking legend. And I want to apply that into my wrestling career. So that's how I'm going to see it.
Yeah, and I think it's good, especially for the commentators. The reason why I think the commentators do it is to explain to an audience who may not understand why they have done this certain thing. So I get it. I get why commentators do it. I also get, like, what Chris is saying, that it does make them feel like marks rather than wrestlers. But I think that this is something that's been done over the years. For the last, I think probably the Attitude Era stars have had moments where they have paid homage to the wrestlers that came before them. So yeah, I personally don't have a problem with it, Chris. A different Chris has got a question. Chris Duncan, with the rumors that Bobby Roode is returning soon, probably going to Raw, do you think they'll reunite him with Ziggler, or do you think they may use his absence to fuel a feud between the two? If I'm Roode, I want to be sort of far away from Ziggler. Not like anything against Dolph or anything, but I just feel like him being away for so long, this is now the time to kind of like refresh the character and maybe even bring back that NXT glorious Bobby Roode that we haven't really had on the main roster. And Raw is lacking in main event heels or top level heels. Maybe this is the time to repackage him and, bring him back into the fold in a big way.
See, I think you have more hope than I do. I see him more as he's been slotted. I don't think he's going to come back to a major monster push. I don't see it happening. I mean, if it didn't happen when he was like, the glorious thing was so freaking hot. I mean, I don't know what would do it now. I feel like, yeah, he would come back, get excited, and then they would just kind of go back to where he was. So maybe I could see him resurfacing something with Dolph, especially because there's not really anything that Dolph's doing right now. He's sort of just floating around.
And actually, do you know what? To kind of go back on my answer as well, because you're absolutely right. Like, I fantasy booking myself into like, yeah, he's going to be like in the main event picture, but Raw doesn't have tag teams at the moment. We've what's the match this coming Sunday for the tag titles, Denise? It's
why am I blanking? I was blanking on the match. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, we've seen it so many times over the past 8 weeks.
Oh, yes, there you go. Exactly. How can I forget? I've already seen it. And it's funny because you didn't even have to say it. Like, my mind just like drew a blank. And then you said, oh, you've seen it. Okay, yeah, I get it.
Yeah. It's friggin' Profits versus Andrade and Angel Garza again. This is the
I'm
match
so
that we
excited. It's going to be match of the year.
Match that we've been having is basically since WrestleMania. So I think Raw could actually do with some more tag teams in there. Dwayne the Gronk Johnson said, what's your favorite Vince McMahon backstage story that you've ever heard? I've told my favorite one a fair number of times on this podcast. So I was wondering if you have any.
I don't have a specific one, but I do have something that I think is very interesting, was that I heard that Vince doesn't like when people sneeze in front of him because you can lose your job. So yeah. I think any stories like that where like you find out like things he doesn't like, I think are pretty interesting. So the sneezing thing, really, like I kind of agree with him. I don't like people sneezing next to me, but I'm not going to fire them.
Yeah, because he apparently for Vince, it's a sign of weakness. It's your one of my other favorites is that he refuses to grow a beard because he doesn't want to let it win. He's a bit of a control freak by all accounts. So if a beard grows out, that means the beard is winning. So that's why he shaves it down, because he can't let the beard win. The sneezing thing is because he hates sneezing because he can't control that. And Paul Heyman tells the story that he was giving him this 6-month plan for SmackDowns when Paul Heyman was in charge of SmackDown, like 15 years ago, being like, here's my big 6-month plan for it. And he had Vince in the palm of his hand. Then Vince sneezed. And Paul was like, and after that, I lost him because he was just really annoyed at himself that he sneezed, that he wasn't listening to the rest of my pitch.
That's just so insane. I mean, think about how many times you probably sneeze in a week. And then there's people that sneeze like in doubles. So if you sneeze once, you go twice. If you sneeze 3 times, you go 4 times. Is that you?
I am that guy. Like this morning, I had a sneeze fit of like 6 in a row.
What do? You're walking down the hall. You're working at WWE. Vince is coming and you're about to have a sneeze attack. What do you do? I have a plan. I already have a plan. You know what my plan would be? I was telling this to my fiance. This is a joke, by the way. I would just throw myself into the nearest garbage chute so no one would see me. And if someone sneezes, he won't know that it's me, okay? Because I will be in the garbage hiding.
It's a flawless plan, Denise. I can't see anywhere going wrong.
I can't see anything going wrong with my plan whatsoever. There's no other plan. What do you do?
So my other favorite Vince story, I will tell this one again because I genuinely, it's a brilliant encapsulation of Vince McMahon. Gerald Briscoe and Jim Ross were in a car, and Jim Ross farted, and it smelled so bad that Gerald Briscoe threw up. Vince heard this story, and it was the funniest thing he'd ever heard. So he then spent the entire day trying to fart next to Gerald Briscoe to make him throw up, and he tried so much that he crapped his pants, and then had to go out and do a segment.
I didn't know that one. I can't even, it seems so outrageous that you like wonder like how factual is this, right?
Yeah.
Oh my God, but I can imagine it. I can imagine it.
But like,
Wow.
yeah, I mean, what a guy Vince McMahon is. Whenever I think of Vince, my instant memory is it's the Royal Rumble, the 2006 one, when he runs down to the ring at the botched ending with Cena and Batista, slides into the ring, breaks both of his quads, and then just like shuffles himself into the corner and carries on like nothing has happened, and is just shouting at them, just continuing this promo. It is, it's nuts. Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh my God.
RLT Sandwich has got some crazy predictions for, with crazy stipulations. Are we going to get a ladder match for the custody of Aaliyah?
God, can you imagine that? I mean, we already had one for Dominic, but for Aaliyah, I don't know. I don't know. I'm going to say no.
Yeah. Callum says, as of writing, we've had 2 days of the G1. It's been great so far. Ibushi versus Okada and Ishii versus Suzuki were amazing. Is there any match that you're looking forward to? What's your predictions for the final? Mine is Naito and Ospreay. We've both got the same winner prediction here. We've both got Ibushi down to win, even though the kid's 0-2 at the moment. I think he's going to have the comeback story of the G1.
I think so too, because he's still my pick and hasn't changed. But seriously though, okay, so I've only watched night one so far, so I'm behind. But I just thought that Ishii Suzuki was the most entertaining match that I've seen all year across any promotion. It was awesome. I enjoyed, I also, you know what? I wasn't expecting to enjoy Will Ospreay and Takahashi, and I did kind of enjoy that one. I wouldn't call it like the greatest match ever or anything like that, but I thought it was good. So I did like, night one. I thought Jay White looked phenomenal. And then in terms of the upcoming matches, I am looking forward to, I'm looking at the cards I'm looking forward to Jay White, Ibushi. I'm looking forward to.
That was a really good match, actually, Jay White.
Yeah.
Done from night 3.
See, I haven't even seen it yet, so I'm looking forward to that one. And then I'm trying to see what else I want to see. Naito, Zack Sabre Jr. I haven't seen yet. I want to see that as well. So there's still a lot of things that I need to catch up with. Yeah,
the match that I've actually is coming up on. I think it's not the next night coming up. I think it's the night after. Actually, it might be this coming Sunday's night, which is Ospreay versus Shingo Takagi, which I think is going to be awesome. And that night is headlined by Okada versus Jay White. So like, there's so much history between those two. I think that's going to be really great. Also on that night is Ibushi versus Tomohiro Ishii and Jeff Cobb versus Minoru Suzuki. By the way, Block A is stacked. Like, Block A is so stacked. There's lots of amazing stuff coming up, and we're doing live coverage of it over on Wrestle 2 with Tempest. I was there for the day 3, or night 3 rather, live stream on Wednesday with the just amazing stuff. I really enjoyed that main event between Ibushi and Jay White. I thought it was really, really good. Ket says, is there any wrestling show in the past that you wish you could have attended and have had front row seats for? Which one would it be?
I've been to every major pay-per-view, but live, but I've never experienced a Royal Rumble live ever in my life. We don't have them here often here in LA. They don't happen. I think the last one was early 2000s, and it was in Fresno, which now I regret not going. And so I've been missing out. I've never been able to experience a live Royal Rumble. I've never done the counting, none of that. So I would do a Royal Rumble for sure.
Is there any Royal Rumble in particular from the past that you would have liked to have gone to?
This one's old, but I would have liked to have been there when Benoit won.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the 2000. Yeah.
Because that one was the one where I just remember freaking out completely. And obviously back then it was, everything was okay. And
it was okay to like Benoit.
Everything was okay. And, Benoit was my favorite wrestler one of my favorite wrestlers back then. So that moment was really great. So I think I would have liked to have been there for that one.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've answered this question before, but it's All In. I'd have loved to have been, and I recently rewatched All In. And while All In's not like the greatest wrestling show ever, being a part of that crowd would have been awesome. And I've got friends who were front row for Evolution, and they said it was like one of the best nights of wrestling they've ever seen. So like that would also have been really good. And again, to be part of that crowd, like that's kind of the things I'm thinking of the moment whenever I think of this question is that crowd atmosphere.
Speaking of crowd atmosphere, then Mania when Brock beat Taker and ended his streak. Imagine being in the crowd for that one. I think that would have been a really good one to be there, just for that specific moment.
Jobber JJ says, hello, Team Danuke. After this week's version of Nitro, WWE's Nitro, how does WWE rebuild everything that's been ruined? And how does WWE get good? How does it get good with the fans? And how long do you think it'll take to regrow the audience they've lost? Have a nice day. Jam that jam. This is, at this point, Jobber, because we've had this question many, many times on the mailbag show. I don't know is the answer. Like, I don't know what to do. I think that wrestling has, at this point in time, hit a ceiling. I think there is a ceiling of what wrestling fans will watch and how many wrestling fans there are that are willing to watch. And, watch a 3-hour show every single week. Because like really my first answer would be get rid of that third hour. I think we've hit a ceiling on how many wrestling fans we can get to watch this show. Unless something just catches fire in a mainstream way, I don't think there's anything that WWE can really do because they're trying things. They're trying like pushing Drew, they're trying to make a star of him. They brought back Roman Reigns and turned him heel, which is what the fans have wanted him to do. They've introduced this new heel group. I don't know what the answer is at this point.
I have a new answer for you. Adding everything that you just said and everything that we've mentioned in terms of consistency and, building young stars and new stars and all of those faces. What I want to see is a difference in the in-ring work because I feel everyone is doing the exact same thing. And I want to see a variation. I want to expect different types of matches from different types of guys. And I don't want to see the same matches over and over again. I want to see different things because that's honestly the major difference that I've been noticing because it's like, NXT has a similar flow to New Japan where it's like match. Okay, but how come it's easier for me to watch a New Japan show than it is an NXT show sometimes? Because I feel that they offer more variety in terms of you're going to expect something different from each and every single match depending on the guys that are in the ring. And then sometimes you don't always get that with like an NXT or an AEW or, so on. I feel that you have to add more variation in terms of what the guys are doing in the ring.
I think that's a really, really good answer. Max Campbell, do you think we'll ever see Tony Khan as an on-screen authority figure in AEW? I'm going to say no on this one. I think he said in interviews before that he doesn't want to be an on-screen character, but there's always every chance that he could be. I don't think it suits him.
I don't think he would be a character like Vince McMahon. That definitely would not suit him whatsoever. But I do think he will be an on-screen character someday. Never say never. Like an authority, he will definitely be there at some point. I can see it.
The American Dadass Jesse Long says, do you think that Retribution were purposely made to come off as dumb? Can't help but feel that this stable is what an old white person like Vince McMahon sees and thinks of Antifa protesters, the mask-wearing vandals that want to upend the status quo. Do you think that they were given stupid names and bad promo material as some sort of out-of-touch statements on vocal liberals? Jesse, this question has been posed to us quite a few times in super chats and stuff. I'm going to say no. I think that WWE think Retribution is cool. I think they have got cool names. I think they've got a cool look. I think they think it's a cool stable.
I agree with you. Plus, you also notice, given some of the verbiage that they use in their promos, it's some of the same ones you're hearing from the other guys. So I feel like I don't think that they were necessarily trying to make it a flop. You wouldn't go into all of this effort of getting all of these people to come in and do Retribution. You wouldn't go and damage all of these properties if you weren't thinking you weren't at least putting a little bit of, effort in there.
Yeah, I genuinely think that they think it's cool. Irakli says, what is your favorite women's match of all time? For me, it's Candice LeRae versus Io Shirai from TakeOver Toronto. It is Banks and Bailey, Brooklyn 1. That is my answer.
Nice.
It's oh man, I cry every time I watch it. It's a beautiful match, and it's a beautiful. Denise, everything about that match is perfect. The video package is perfect. The entrances are perfect. The match is perfect. The ending is perfect. Oh, it's great. I'm getting teary just thinking about it.
You really hyped it up, man. You really hyped it up. I'm gonna go with Charlotte and Becky Lynch. I remember really enjoying. I remember really. That was my favorite Charlotte match, my favorite Becky match. So I'm just gonna go with my favorite women's match. Period.
Absolutely. I mean, when I interviewed you for the Actually Good video we did on Charlotte Flair, like I interviewed you and Sean and Alex and DS Shin. All four of you said the same match. Did like,
we really?
What's your favorite Charlotte Flair match? All four of you said versus Becky Lynch at Evolution was just amazing.
It was one of the times where I was just like, yeah, we did it. I wasn't in the match, but just like for women's sake, I was proud of us.
You were there, Denise.
Yes.
Nate's name says, "Hey, Team Danuke. Brought a friend of mine to Dynamite this week who'd never had any experience at a wrestling show, never really watched much of it. The extent of her experience and knowledge was basically the show Glow, which is a great show, by the way. She actually had a great time and she loved it. She said there is a 100% chance she's going to come back for another show and try and drag all of her co-workers along too. I think we're looking at one of the upcoming anniversary shows as the next one. Not sure there's a question in there, but I believe the question of what's the best way to introduce wrestling to someone who has definitely been answered. Take them to an AEW Dynamite show. I'm sure it has nothing to do with it being the first show of any kind of for months that made it more fun and exciting. As always, thank you so much for your coverage and consistent content. Support each other." So last question, more of just a statement. Take fans to go see AEW Dynamite. So Nate he's been at the Daily's Place tapings, giving us like live coverage on the ground.
Nice.
Yeah, go to AEW shows.
Don't ever take a date or anyone to a non-good wrestling show or some place that you've never, like a new promotion. I did that one time. I took an ex to I'm not going to say where, but I took him to the show and it was awful. He was bored. It was awful, like in my opinion. And I was embarrassed that I was claiming that this was so great. And I brought this ex and he was not enjoying the show and I was embarrassed.
Oh, dearie me. Like a friend of mine was going to be going to Mania this year with his wife. Like it was going to be their their honeymoon, basically. Their sort of like delayed honeymoon. They were going to go to WrestleMania. She's not a wrestling fan. And I suddenly thought to myself, I was like, oof, that's a long show. Like I'm sure that like my buddy's really excited to go, but oof, that's a long old show for someone who's not a wrestling fan. And lastly, Stephen Garside says, long-time listener, first-time Patreon member. Does anyone know the best way to watch WWE Network with friends? Now, I know that we're heading for at least a few more months of lockdown. I'm keen to try and watch some old pay-per-views with friends online. Having recently become a Patreon, listening to the back catalogue of the WrestleTalk Extra podcast of older events, it's really getting my appetite going. I know you can do it natively, like Netflix, for example. You can't do it natively like Netflix. Is there an easy way of doing it, or is it just sharing your screen through something like Teams or Zoom? Is there a better option?
I haven't watched the network with anybody but myself, so I'm gonna say maybe the share screen, but I haven't done it myself though, so I don't know on this one.
Yeah, I think probably the only thing I could think of is to just like try and get yourself synced up. So like if you're watching, if you're watching separately the network and you don't want to do the share screen because that is going to lose a lot of the quality of the screen that you're watching, is also, I think it's illegal, is just to get yourself synced up. I mean, that's what we do when we watch it for the live streams, is we just, before the show starts, we basically just find a sync point. It's helpful if there's a pre-show because they've got a countdown timer. And yeah, just try to get yourself in sync there and then have your call on Zoom or Google Meets or whatever it is that you're using. That's probably the best suggestion I've got.
Good suggestion.
And that is going to wrap it up for this week's episode of the show. Thank you, Denise, for joining us. Where can people find you on the social media? Try and get it right this time.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I always mess that stuff up. Okay. So Instagram @ Denise Salcedo. I've been posting like lots of pictures, so go in there. I've been more active. And then Twitter @ Denise Salcedo. Same thing. And I'm so close to, I'm like 1,900 or something away from 10K, but I want to hit 10K already because I feel like a loser when I'm not at 10K. So come follow me on there. And then youtube.com/Denise Salcedo. I have a new interview that I just posted up with the Good Brothers, so check that one out. I have one with Chris Sabin and so many others. Like, really, go out there and check them out. youtube.com/Denise Salcedo.
And there is a button right there that you can press, which will take you to Denise's channel, so you can go subscribe there and help out Instinct Culture. It's a great channel doing great stuff. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you next week. I've been Luke, and this has been Denise Salcedo, and that was wrestling.